What's up, Silas here. This is going to be an addition to the video I had talking about nationalism. It was, can anyone be a white nationalist? Because I was trying to identify how do people define the term nationalism? What does it mean to be a nationalist of something? This was due to the fact that President Donald J. Trump recently said he would just call him a nationalist, call me a nationalist. And then Jim Acosta of CNN went out and said, "Oh, do you just mean that you're a white nationalist?" And I was like, wait. I think I know people who have self-defined themselves as white nationalists. Donald J. Trump has never called himself that, but you don't have to call yourself something in order to be that. So it's like, okay, what does Jim Acosta, what do you guys mean? What do other guys mean by nationalism? And specifically white nationalism was the kind of thing that just made me spark off on this. Because I've been trying to understand these terms and I don't really get it. So now with nationalism, I also talked about how there's a thing you can be part of the Cherokee Nation, and the Cherokee Nation is a Native American tribe in the United States of America. And then recently there was something with Elizabeth Warren, a senator in the United States of America, coming out, and she had a history. Harvard University recognized her as one of the Native American professors at their school. And in some reason, somehow, she doesn't have friends. She can't have friends in her life and actually do this. She somehow thought it was a good idea to do a DNA test and release the results, with it finding that it was only 1,024th% native. And it could even be Latin American. It could be like Incan or Mayan or something. It did not even have... And why would you release this? But anyway, so it turns out that the Cherokee Nation says to be part of the Cherokee Nation, you need at least something like 1/16th. I think it was like 1/4 or something. It was something like that. 30% or something of your genetic code needs to be at least of that tribe. Or it has to be like a great-grandparent, has to be like full Cherokee or something like that. That kind of situation. So she was like, they were like, no. None of the tribes in the United States of America said she could be part of that nation. But she could be American. She could be an American nationalist. She isn't, because I don't think she really agrees with the idea of what the United States of America is, the Constitution and things like this. She has a different idea, I think, of what America is. But that's what we're talking about here. What is the nationalism that you can be a part of? The nation part. I think you can't just become part of a people's. I mean, I guess eventually you can have kids with enough natives, and then eventually it'll get to the point where they have enough of a percentage to be part of the Cherokee Nation, but you'd have to have a fully Cherokee person. I guess if it's half and half, they probably would consider you part of it. So that's an easy way to get into the Cherokee Nation. Have a kid, your kid can be part of the Cherokee Nation. I don't think let's say I had a kid with somebody who was 100% Cherokee. I think our kid could be part of the Cherokee Nation. I never could. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. But I can become an American citizen and be an American nationalist. You can become a Kenyan citizen and be a Kenyan nationalist. You don't even have to be of that country, I think, to be a nationalist for that country, because all you have to do is support that country's idea, what the country is, and kind of put it ahead of other countries and value it. I think that's all you got to do. But one of the main things we're talking about with nationalism that people talk about, the reason is we should let other cultures in. People talk about the cuisine of cultures, that part of it. And that's one thing I'm going to talk about in this video, because I think there's some interesting thing here about nationalism and the cuisine. Here of things that I think are worth talking about. The first one is this, Creature of Gold. This is a this is a Kenyan-made tea, and it's green tea and passion. It's a really good mix. I really like this green tea, passion, jasmine, excellent mix of flavors. But what I wanted to talk about here was, first of all, these things are rather new. Kenya has been one of the world's greatest exporters of tea for a long time. I think from colonial times, before Kenya was Kenya. I think the British came in here, and in Kericho area, they actually started sending out a lot of tea. And there was very few actual local companies producing their own tea, selling their own tea on the market. It was a situation where they would have tea, they would have coffee, they would ship it out, and then other countries would get it, and then they would ship it back in, and then you'd go buy them in stores in these packages in different flavors. And the local companies would only have just simple flavors. It would just be regular flavored tea. Just one kind of tea, black tea. It was even hard to find green tea. This wasn't even that long ago. But now you can find all these kind of teas, because this is a thing that was there abroad, and now it's been brought here. So that idea of having these different flavored teas is not necessarily a Kenyan idea, yet it's something that has been brought back, and now it's being used here. And this is something like cocoa. 75% of, I think it might be even higher, like 90%. I'm going to go 75% of cocoa comes from Ghana. And that goes all over the world. And then other countries are considered to be the chocolate capitals. I lived in Turin, Italy, and I think they invented chocolate there or something like that. But it's the chocolate capital of the world, at least Europe. But most of the cocoa they use there comes from Ghana. So this is kind of things where it's like the mixes of things, and people talk about, oh, you should embrace other countries because of the cuisine. But one thing I wanted you guys to see here is these kind of things here. Holla at us. That is not a Kenyan slang. That's an American slang. I remember those back things like, it's like, what's up? Those are what's up ads. Holla at us, holla at your boy. That kind of things. These are things that are moving around with America, which is why I'm saying the West, America in specific, is probably going to become the one world culture of the globe. Because globalization is coming, I think, in the willing choice globalization, because there's no negative globalization here. This is somebody saw an idea out there, creature gold, and we're like, okay, let's start a company here. Let's get the situation here. Let's use holla at us. It's a cool thing. People know it's hip. That American culture is kind of part of just the general world and things like that. People talk about it. People know about it. Now you look at all these apps here that they have pages for, the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+, Pinterest. I think Google+ is closed. But all these things. Now this is a marketing kind of idea. They've looked at how America markets itself. And this is one thing I noticed very young, living in the United States of America. That country has the best marketing for its state ever. It's the best marketing thing. There's like underwear. It's like you can buy underwear with the American flag. You can buy toilet paper with the American flag. There's anything with the American flag. Anything is America. That country has got to the point where it has capitalized itself. It has marketed itself. The idea of the American dream, just Americanism has been marketed both to the country itself and other people. And that's why I think a lot of people who might dislike what America is, they're still tied into actually, we can't go anywhere else because we just know that place is kind of where it's at. It's just so ingrained in them. So this kind of thing I was kind of saying, there's kind of a sharing of ideas. Now, another thing here is Weetabix. Now, this is a cereal thing, and cereal itself, that kind of having those 3 meals a day, which is not even a typical thing. It's not a regular thing for humans to have had 3 meals a day. That, again, has come out of the American thing. Breakfast, having breakfast, and things like that. These cereals, this is an American company, Weetabix, but they had this thing, and then the calories thing, I think that's another American-based thing. But the communication, I was wondering, are there ways to communicate what is an American idea, that marketing way, to other people in the world? Is there a way to communicate this is what it is to be an American? This is what to be of any nation. This is what to be of any idea that you can be nationalist of, you can be supportive of. You know, there are certain things where I said you just happen to be that. Like you're born a Cherokee and that's part of who you are. You can't change it. I'm born a Negro. I was born who I am, Luya tribe. I can't change that. But there's other things you can kind of learn and you can be taught. So these are the kind of things I was trying to understand. What does it mean to be an American? Because you see with this one, now, this has been shipped to many different countries. Great Britain, Denmark, Portugal, Greece, Spain. And you can see the different kind of definitions here. Full of crispy golden wheat, juicy currants, crunchy nuts with 78% whole grain. They stay crisp in milk, and you can eat them as a snack and as a cereal as well. And they do stay crisp in milk, because normally Weetabix, when you get the typical old Weetabix, you put it in milk and it just sogs up immediately. This one I think they have, it's not written there, but I think they maybe like some honey on it somewhat, because it takes really a while for it to actually get. I don't really drink that milk that much. I just eat them. I will eat them this way when I'm not doing like the gluten-free thing. But look at all these other things. So look at these other languages. I can't, Greek. I have a Greek friend, and what is up with this language? What is up with this? Look at this. Look at this. Look, no, I'm not. You can't even go with that. Now, at Volmit, let me see if I can try to read this. Knusprig, Goldener, Weizen, Saftige, Corinthen, Kankije, Nusse. Is that the I think that's the Dutch? That might be the Dutch right there. Repleto de trigo, dorado, estaldico, groselhas, suculentas, avelas, crochantes. I think that's not the Spanish. Is that what is that? I don't know. I don't know what language that is. But yeah, so this is in different languages. Plein de blé d'or croisselant, de grosselets, séchés, je tousse, noix courant. No, that's not. Is that the French? No, that doesn't seem like French. I think I know enough French to know that's not French. But anyway, this is what I'm saying. This is just the same thing. This right here, this is explaining what this package is. So think about this. If this package was the nation, the idea of what America is, what would be your short definition of this in English and be able to tell people from different countries who believe different things, who understand different languages? How would you be able to communicate this is what this package is? This package of America you're buying, if you want America, it's this package. It's crispy golden wheat, juicy currants, crunchy nuts. How would you put this so it can be translated to these other countries? So that's kind of what I was talking about. Okay. Why I was thinking this is a good example of foods and things like this was, first of all, just the way people can go around, and some people could be allergic to certain things. And maybe some things where you just have like a general disposition where you're against it. But something about the cuisine, and this is one thing you see a lot in the United States of America. You see this in many other countries, just like I talked about the Kericho Gold thing here. Now you come to Kenya, you come to Nairobi, and it's an international city. You can find Lebanese food, Korean food, Japanese food, Eritrean, Ethiopian. And one thing I've always wondered is, what do you define as American food? Think about a pizza. If you're in America, your idea of pizza, okay, now it's kind of changed with more of the more rustic kind of oven pizzas coming out. But you think of pizza in the United States of America, and it's a lot different of what the average pizza is in Italy. And the Italians invented the pizza. So you get to the situation when I was living in Rome, people were like, oh, some Americans just go to an American school. Some people were like, oh, we have the actual pizza. And we'd be like, oh, you stupid tourists. We'd be the locals and things like that. And we're like, oh, no, you guys don't know what pizza is. But no, pizza changes. Like, pizza can change. How long does it take for something to become Americanized in that sense? There are certain things that are American. What is an American cuisine? It's normally things taken from other places and adjusted and mixed and melting, the melting pot kind of idea. I think that fusion kind of thing happens in the United States of America a lot. And also, how does food actually come to be? How does it change from being something that was just some grandma made it in one small village town, then became the village and town food, and then enough people pushed it up, then maybe some king came to visit back in the day, and then the king was like, oh, I really like this dish. Well, how do you make it? And then the next time he actually had some guests over, he'd say, okay, make this dish for me, cook. And then all of a sudden, the people who came to that country, every time they came to the king's house, they'd eat that meal that the grandma made, and the grandma would actually end up being, now that's actually considered to be part of the cuisine, because people who come from other countries define that country by eating that meal, when it was actually just the grandma in the hill somewhere that made it. So this kind of idea, if we say that being part of a nation, nations have cuisine. We say, okay, there's Greek food, there's Portuguese food, there's French food, there's Italian food, there's Kenyan food. So you can say part of being a nation, having nationalist tendencies, would also be to be proud of the cuisine of your country, to be proud of the things that you eat in that country. But when it comes to the United States of America or anywhere else, you don't have to be of that country to make that food, to take that food in and find nourishment in it, to prepare that food for other people. A lot of restaurants everywhere in the world, especially in the United States of America specifically, you'll go to like New York, go to Japanese restaurants, go to restaurants or different places. You go in the back, and it's not necessarily only Japanese people working in Japanese restaurants. It's not only Mexican people working in Mexican restaurants. It's not only Honduran people working in Honduran restaurants. It's people from all different places. You learn how to make the food, you can make it. So that means people from other countries who don't necessarily, you don't have to have some kind of genetic quotient in order to have some part and some value of some parts that make up a nation, the idea of what nationalism is. So let me know what you guys think about this concept, and just let me know what you guys think about what are the parts, as I mentioned, what are the core parts of a nation? What are the things you would define to say, okay, you need at least A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you need at least probably 3 things to define a nation. What are the top 3 things or 3 major things you think someone would have to define what a nation is? And that could be packaged and told like, that's what makes this nation different than that nation. So that's what makes this nation actually better than that nation, because I think these are definitely objective things, and you can objectively say one thing is better than the other once you actually start identifying what those things are. That's it. So thanks for watching, and in this video there was a clip about me making some banana bread that I used that entire clip in a previous video about let them eat banana bread, talking about the different expectations or approaches or just outlooks to life that people have in different countries, within the countries themselves. But now, how about the entire country? What are the nutritional requirements of certain countries? In certain countries, like there's this one story I keep telling people. There was some tribe here in Kenya. They were actually starving, living in the northeast and around the desert area. Another area sent them fish, but they were like, "We don't eat fish in our in our culture. It's not something we eat." So when it comes down to nationalities, when we think of those ingredients as I'd mentioned, what are the main ingredients? Just because there's certain ingredients for something doesn't mean those things won't be available in that country. So there may be certain things in certain countries that if you had a different kind of mentality, a different kind of idea of nationality or nationalism, you would use that resource in a different way. Take the simple example. Since there's something about being Indian that you hold cows as something honorable and something that you don't really eat. People don't eat cows there. Cows walk around the street in a certain way. Now, if you took somebody from like the Maasai nation, they have an entirely different relationship with their cattle where they drink the blood, they drink the milk, they trade them during situations when they're having marriages and things like this. And Maasai tribesmen's wealth may be defined by how many cattle they own, whereas in India, that would be an entirely different thing. So there's some things I think about nationalities, about nations, that it being that specific nation means they're going to use certain resources in a certain way, and being of another nation may mean that resource that's valuable in one country may be completely pointless or overlooked by somebody from another nation. Does that make any sense? Okay. Like, share, subscribe. Links below to the merchandise store. Goodbye.